I've been recently diagnosed with severe ADHD, which I think is phenomenal. I get to understand myself a little bit better. And so, to me, who am I? It's always been a blessing, as in the ability to scale, work, and see businesses through what they can become and drive it to 80%. And the curse is I've always been reasonably crap at keeping a business on the rail in the long run when it comes to the hard daily grind.
When you first got diagnosed, or rather confirmation, what sort of emotion came up? How did you feel?
The emotion was relief, joy, light bulb moment, aha moment, as in, aha, I understand now. Because when you've got ADHD, the thought is that because you find it extremely difficult to engage on the daily, less exciting activities, one self-diagnoses as lazy and maybe not good enough because you struggle in certain areas.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Clock.
How do you deal with stress? How do you handle that?
Coping mechanisms that I have is I go for a run.
Manage stress by obviously being moments like this. Directly saying I'm going off the clock.
Just even a night out.
I'm listening to my favorite music. I go into one of the studios at the gym and I dance.
Some cocktails and rest and just do nothing.
I ground myself spiritually.
The right amount of stress is good.
Loic, welcome to Off the Clock. Thank you so much for making the time. I know we've been trying to figure out the date and all that in your busy schedule, and finally got to sit you down off the clock and so that you can share and we can get to know you better. So I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself in the way you know better. So who are you, Loic?
Peter, first, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. That's awesome. An opportunity to have hopefully a meaningful conversation, so can't wait. And so who am I? Originally from Belgium, French-speaking, married 20 years, 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl. We speak French and Spanish at home. I studied hotel school, wine, and I do wine clubs with friends. I've then studied management, went to Africa to go and change the world, as one would at 23, and then came back and started working for multinationals. I've been recently diagnosed with severe ADHD, which I think is phenomenal. I get to understand myself a little bit better. And so, to me, who am I? It's always been a blessing, as in the ability to scale, work, and see businesses through what they can become and drive it to 80%. And the curse is I've always been reasonably crap at keeping a business on the rail in the long run when it comes to the hard daily grind. And otherwise, I'm now a CEO coach. I coach CEOs around the world on exponential scaling, Gen AI, the deeper space, alignment to the true selves, and a bit of a traveler on my own journey as well to self-discovery. And so I could say a lot more, but let me stop here.
Cool. Thank you very much. I've been in healthcare all my life. So the minute you talk about diagnosis of some disease or ailment or something, I want to deep dive into that. Tell me about how it came about that you were diagnosed with your disease.
So I've always said jokingly, when I was attending a conference, a workshop, a meeting, and I was a little bit too fidgety or couldn't focus for too long or found it boring super quickly, I've always with humor said, hey guys, it's got to be my ADHD side, cracking a joke. And actually I was spot on. And through a conversation with
So you diagnosed yourself unconsciously?
I did, actually. I like that, Consciously, I think I was on the dot. But the true meaningful conversation started with a psychologist who said, but the story of your life, as they always want to go deeper into who was Loic as a boy, teenagehood, root cause, and then rereading my history, she said, I think it would make sense for you to see someone who specializes into ADHD, because I have a hint you might very well be. And so 2 hours later, with a psychiatrist specialized in ADHD, she's beautiful conversation. She said, wow, amazing how first you've got severe ADHD. So next step is to do a granular assessment. And 2 is it's amazing to see the red thread through your life of the big leaps and bounds of that ability for those neurons to be connected in a certain way and explore the future, what can be, and drive with huge energy the largest challenges that I could get my teeth stuck in. And after doing the 80-20, each time getting like naturally disengaged for the run of the mill, the day-to-day, and a couple of midlife crises later and reinventing myself a couple of times, I understand myself a little bit better now.
So when you first got diagnosed, or rather confirmation, what sort of emotion came up? How did you feel?
The emotion was relief, joy, light bulb moment, aha moment, as in, aha, I understand now. Because when you've got ADHD, the thought is that because you find it extremely difficult to engage on the daily, less exciting activities, one self-diagnoses as lazy and maybe not good enough because you struggle in certain areas.
Yeah.
And that's been the story of my life, and a story of overachievement and overcompensation on the other side, on the kind of the more astute side of the ADHD. And so I remember, like, I think 12 years ago, I was on the London Business School on the most senior exec program, and I had a massive imposter syndrome, thinking, geez, do I belong here or not?
What am I doing here?
What am I doing here? All these bright people from bright corporations. And a number of hours into the program, I understood, but hang on, I'm coping reasonably well. Others as well, but others aren't. There's a couple of questions that I've figured out those concepts, and I'm not that bad after all. And then it dawned on me to say, but hang on, can you just relax for a bit? Can you pause? Stop putting yourself under such an amount of stress to overperform, overcompensate, and can you just chill for a while? And I felt the weight of the world off my shoulders.
Okay.
Only a couple of weeks later to get back on that hamster wheel and say, hey, what's the next challenge now? And so,
Wow. I mean, here on Off the Clock, we focus a lot about you, Loic, the person, less about the work. You mentioned earlier that you're married with 2 children, happily married. How did you meet your wife? Here I want a bit of more details, not high-level stuff, but this is romance we're talking about.
Exactly. So I met my wife at a church pickup.
Church?
The best pickup places of all times. So here I am in Brussels, half sick with a bit of a flu, and I get a call from a friend saying, hey, we need someone to come and lead the choir at the next Sunday, and I love singing. So I said, well, listen, I'm half sick, but if I can, I'll do it. And so I go there, I lead the choir, and I see that girl after church coming to me with the hair in all directions and saying, hey, thanks for the singing, that was amazing, pleasure. And we meet, the parish priest is an old friend of mine, and he said, hey, come, let's have lunch together. It's been a while. And because Caroline, my wife, couldn't, she needed to see him, and it didn't, cut a long story short, she joins for lunch. And worst moment ever for her, because it's we were at the Scouts together, and it's old times, souvenirs, and she probably finds me the most boring guy ever. But then we connect on one point, and I needed her help to organize an international event for a church youth gathering in Germany at the time with the Pope. And so we go on a first date. I invite her for dinner, but then out of work on that very day, I completely forgot that I invited her to dinner. And then I'm thinking, just get that next step sorted, and I pick her up from her apartment. And then there's that slow motion moment, you know, and like
Slow
in the comic
motion?
movie, there's like wow, and I see her walking out, beautiful, her hair done, and she always claims 20 years after that her hair done wasn't because of me. 20 years after, I beg to doubt it. I don't know. Story and history will tell it. And from there, we had the most passionate conversation, and it felt. After 30 minutes, and I pick up from a friend, lead a restaurant nearby that felt practical, but of course, things happen for a reason. It was the most intimate, beautiful setting of a restaurant. We're having a conversation that just starts for 30 minutes. Hyper engaged, she's insightful, and here comes the waiter to say, well, we're closing, guys, time to get enough. But we just came here, but it was in the meantime 5 hours later, and it felt like 30 minutes. And
wow,
the rest is history.
Deep connection.
And she opened a great bottle of wine, and I thought, wow, that's a girl. And here's my bias, I suppose, but that's a girl who knows about wine.
She opened the bottle?
We were back at her place. She opens a great bottle of wine, and I think, wow, she knows about wine. And so, yeah, that's another point of connection. And
so the rest is history. So tell me, you know, you're saying you like singing, you can sing. Maybe you can sing a song right at the end of this interview, just to seal it off nicely, like a dessert for the interview. And I think a lot of guys kind of charm the ladies with, I'll sing you one song, I'll play the piano or guitar for you, just to do that. And you know, I must say,
Peter, you should try to add to that the French accent. It seems it works. So. Here's one. We had friends for dinner at home, and I recall, and we chat to South African friends. We chat at the table. My wife tells me, but didn't we forget to take the garbage out? And I think so. The conversation in French was about taking the garbage out. And here come all the ladies in the room to say, "Oh, that's so romantic. That's so French sounds so." We're speaking about the garbage, so it's extraordinary. So
yeah, but I mean, what is this thing about the French language being so romantic? I mean, there's no argument about that. I had even the comedian Trevor Noah saying, comparing the French language as being romantic to the Russian language, which is more menace and dangerous. And, you know, even if people are saying good things in Russian, but it just sounds they're going to kill someone, you know. But in French, it's just, what is it? You know, what is the romance about the French language?
I don't know what it is. I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I was born in that bath kind of thing.
Okay.
But what comes to mind is the cultural biases in Europe, where people say, no, the Germans should make cars and bridges. Maybe the French should be the lovers. You define hell as being the Germans being the lovers, the French building cars, and the Italians building bridges, or something of that nature. So
yeah, don't start with that, because I can see that the French building cars and the Italians building bridges, because they're also a little bit about making good pizza, pasta, lasagna,
lifestyle,
very foodie, similar to French, but French is also kind of finished with very good wine for centuries, I think. Next question for me is, you seem very, fresh and happy, but yet very busy. How many hours of sleep do you do on an ordinary night?
So what I should have is a minimum of 7 hours, and 8 being absolutely great. What I do get is probably between 5 and 7. The quality of sleep is at times challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think on a couple of counts, which is stress related, both positive and negative. as in when I'm seeking to crack a problem, a solution for a client or something really exciting, that excitement and that my little bicycle in the head keeps running and like the computer, and it is so exciting that it then takes away part of my sleep. Or if I have negative stress, as in any business challenge or something like that, then. But I think I've been, in terms of sleep, for the last 30 years, having a slight, maybe about 90 minutes too little of quality sleep.
Okay, it's been
night.
going down.
I think it's been consistently
declining.
Short, not declining, but probably consistently short in terms of the length of sleep, but then also the quality of the deeper sleep.
So, but I mean, if you combine the two, how many hours do you manage? Would you say 6?
6 sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay. Are you mentally? I mean, where are you? Are you stressed? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? How are you feeling right now?
How I'm feeling right now is positive energy.
Okay.
Lightly stressed, I would say.
Okay.
And the way I manage then the stress, for me, a light stress is an extraordinary positive energy to leverage, in terms of it sets me to think, it sets me to achieve, to think of left field alternatives and it's kind of, I would call that positive stress and positive energy. I always seek to manage that I shouldn't fall into the negative stress, which then this inhibits and takes away some sleep and the negative anxiety, I would say.
Okay. 2 children. How do you spend time off that clock with your family, your children? Do you spend time with all of them at the same time, sometimes individually with them, taking the trips or, having dinner, ice cream? How do you do it?
So several ways. So I think holidays is exceptionally important for us. So we plan quite a bit of holidays, and it's time where I was going to say I do not work, but I seldom work. I avoid work 90%, and the 10% is palatable, doable, fits in without too much disruption. So quality holidays and quality time with the family is foundational for me, and I hope for my children those beautiful moments and memories would stay. It's time with the nature. Contemplation of nature is for me extraordinarily important. Like I studied philosophy years ago, and we understood that one of the doors to the contemplation of what the philosophic tradition calls the ontologic argument, but what religion calls God, the contemplation of nature is one of the doors through which, and that contemplation calls for meditation, calls for prayer, calls for grounding, peace of mind. So we go often to the bush. We to a big 5-game reserve.
Yeah.
There's something extraordinary about having your feet under the stars by the fire. Look up to the stars, listening to the noise of nature, and there's a sense of deeper inner peace and grounding there, which I find extraordinary.
Okay.
I find it great to share that with the children, with my wife, with friends.
Okay.
It can be simply to go, times connected can be one-to-one, simply walking the dogs together, playing the guitar with my daughter, going to watch the sport with my son. We don't do enough dates with my wife, so that's something definitely where I'm lacking.
So no more date nights?
Way not enough. So that is something
you need to work on.
I need to work on. There's one plan though. So let's hope it's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, don't wait too long before you have to create that song and do the piano to win it back, because you can, start, drifting apart.
That's
you know.
true.
So it's very important to be, proactive. I'm
That's
not
true.
a kind of a counselor or a psychologist. I'm just, sharing some experience. You've been, a CEO yourself for many, many years, a big organization. Looking back, any highlights that you want to talk about? Today, you're a CEO coach. You're kind of, on the other side of trying to make CEOs better. Maybe something that you didn't enjoy much, in your time. I'm not sure if you got a lot of coaching or just enough coaching to, get you going.
I think the insight that comes to mind is after a couple of midlife crises, and comes the thought of, I think so in the first 20 years of our lives, it's about going and exploring the world and achieving and learning and progressing and all of those fine things, which can also have a rat race kind of aspect to it and so on. And in the midlife comes that extraordinary question of the meaning.
Yeah.
What are we here for? Who am I? And quite a bit of the work I do to exponentially scale yourself or your business and so on, and without getting in technique, the foundation, the roots, is in you as an individual. What is your unique DNA? What makes you unique, and what were you born? It's the kind of the parable of the talent. We've each received a small, a big, several, but we each, doesn't matter, but that talent. And if I know that there's something similar that Messi with a soccer ball that I have as a talent, big or small, that creates my purpose, that creates my alignment, that creates my mission, and that should center then. It speaks to flowing, it speaks to fulfillment, it speaks to happiness, it speaks to mission to a substantially lesser extent than a poster on the wall, but more like what makes me tick every minute of the day. And then comes alignment in my family life, in my personal life, in my business. And so back to your question, Peter, what really strikes me here, I would love to have had, and to answer you, I didn't have coaches. I had extremely few mentors.
Okay.
And if there's something I would have loved to have, is that understanding. I think of ADHD because it is so meaningful for me to understand who I am and how I function as a person, and understand my core talents and what to do more of, what to stay away from, and to flow quicker, I guess, and not to have to wait bulb moments later in life.
Yeah, that's the reality of life, right? When you're young, you don't know enough, you're not clever enough, you don't have enough money. And, sometimes you wish you can know enough at the right age to be able to be a better person and do more and do better with your life. How old are your kids? Who's the first one, the boy, the girl?
So my boy, and just to close on that loop, I would say, Peter, it's to have access to guys like you for young, promising, so a mentor, a coach that can accelerate, share insights. And there's so many tools and things that one can leverage nowadays, also at a little to no cost with the power of AI and different things, but access to these responsible, mature, experienced brains and individuals such as yourself to then be able to align and flow quicker. And back to my children, my firstborn, Juan, is turning 16, so we have a party, a small kind of get-together, watch rugby, play
how
soccer.
old is he?
16. He's turning 16 this week. And my daughter, Maria Lucia, is turning 15 in December.
So you said your son's name is Juan?
Yes.
Is that a Belgian name, or
it's
sounds Japanese, or
it's
or
Spanish.
Korean? Juan.
It's not Zulu or Korean. It is it is Spanish, and so Caroline is from a French dad and a Colombian mother, and so her mother tongue is Spanish. And I've always had an affinity with that language. Don't ask me why. I don't know.
Spanish?
Spanish.
Yeah.
In history, you'd find that Belgium is a reasonably recent country and has always been part of either the Austro-Hungary Empire, the Burgundy, or under Philip II, the Spanish Empire, and so you had Spanish troops in Brussels, and so I suggest if I were to do that DNA test that you'd find a little bit of Spanish blood in me. Okay. I've always been attracted through these. We all like to see our favorite actors. To me, it was the Spanish-looking ladies, the Latinas. So no wonder I married Caroline, I think, and we love the. So she speaks Spanish to children. I speak French to them, but hence the Spanish names as well.
And what about the Belgian language?
So you got French in the south. So historically you had the Roman Empire border in the middle of Belgium. So which means the Latin influence in the south with French, and in the north the Germanic influence with Flemish, Dutch.
What about Flemish?
And so I was on a boarding school for 4 years in Flemish. So. That's probably my second language.
So Flemish to me feels like a broken Afrikaans.
I would turn that around. I would call
Afrikaans the broken Flemish.
If you imagine the guys with the ox wagon going for years into the bush with not much socialization and then meeting each other for Sunday prayers or whatever, and because of that. I think it's become oversimplified. So if you look at the grammar, if you look at the orthograph, if you look at the construction of the, it's kind of almost substantially more basic, practical Flemish or Dutch.
Okay. I mean, are you still religious? You go to church?
Yes,
in this
I
country? Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Which one?
The Catholic Church.
Catholic Church.
So we go to a parish now that we have teenagers.
Yeah.
Where there's also a nice choir and other families and some, because that then...
You sing there?
I don't sing there. Well, I do sing there, but not in the choir.
Okay, all right. I mean, you said that right at the beginning that you kind of very talented and you've seen that when you're young. Have you ever tried to kind of take that to another level, be a musician? I mean, just looking at your facial expression and features, looks like you can be a very impressive musician. Just the looks alone.
That's extraordinarily kind of you to say that. My family would beg to differ. I'm not even allowed at home to sing in the shower. That's a big no-no. And so if my wife fails to say, Loic, no, keep it quiet, then my daughter will come and say, Dad, stop it. But I do love to sing. So what I do, I sang for years with the Scouts or at church. Or when we organize spiritual retreats, then I take the guitar and I lead a little bit.
So you're also
singing.
good with the guitar?
I get reasonably by with the guitar, and I love doing that. But I'm not on the amateur level.
So I mean, knowing you the way I do, I mean, I kind of through IPO we met a few times as well. It looks like you're somebody who lived a life of two people. I mean, like you really enjoyed your life. You tried a lot of things. You've done a lot of things. Any regrets in life that you wanna share? Maybe you wanted to have 10 kids or something. I mean,
actually, funnily enough, I did. Maybe not 10, but I was thinking of a big family, like 7, and. So it was a first care for my wife to say, oh, wow, the first time I mentioned that. And then life happened. So the first 3 years when we got married, no kid would show up. And we had our plumbing checked and supposedly all was in order. But it still didn't come,
Plumbing.
And then we were very early on open to adoption in our marriage, and
Wow.
but so we had our first 2 children, and then other children never came. But in the meantime, absolutely no regrets on that front. It's more the feelings that come to mind is fulfillment, is joy. It's extraordinary to have that responsibility, that beauty to have 2 children at home, and yeah, that's one extraordinary part of my life for which I feel blessed and grateful.
Yeah.
One key regret would be what comes to mind now. It's that ADHD diagnostic.
Okay.
If I had known that way before, that understanding of oneself, that's so powerful. I think I would have loved to know more about that and
Early age, yeah.
at an early age, because the story of my life is also one of self-doubt. Am I good enough?
Okay.
And that feeling of and that need for self-affirmation, and then that drove as well a powerful energy towards overcompensating and achieving and so on. And so no regrets at all. But if I could have known that before, that knowledge of understanding self, I think that would have been a great enabler.
A bit of more self-awareness and
Self-awareness, self-indulgence maybe, not to be too hard on myself. And yeah, understanding more coping mechanisms, and there's so much that one can do to basically and also help others, because often the sickness is seen as a curse and but there's something extraordinary about this one, I think, which is it's like you're on the one side, I'm a bit of a lunatic scientist with the in the business context or personal context, but on the other side, there's certain things that I struggle with, and I think.
So, I mean, on this show, we try to demystify the leader, the CEO, and I think you tried a lot to demystify ADHD today in a way that, you can still be a CEO, you can still be whatever you want and do whatever you want, including even playing music and singing, so which I think is good. 17 years in South Africa. Do you speak Zulu, any of the local language? Have you tried?
So we've had 3 years of Zulu classes with my wife. We thought, let's do something together. And because Zulu is so vehicular in the country, we tried to, but I wasn't very good at it.
Okay, so
At
what
learning the language.
happened? What was holding you back?
I don't
The
know. The
what?
clicks were certainly a bit of a difficult. I speak a few languages, but European languages.
Okay.
So I could understand from the Flemish and the Dutch Afrikaans. When I was 2 years after university in Zambia, I still speak a few words of Chichewa and Chibemba, but after 20 years, it's really gone to the basic.
You don't use
greetings
it, you lose it.
Exactly, that's spot on.
So-
but for Zulu now, it's like 10 years ago that we had these lessons. So now it's a couple of greetings, and certainly not in any way fluent.
I mean, I kind of been fascinated about languages, traveling to over 40 countries, 44 to be exact, in Africa. And wherever I've been, try a little bit to learn the language and few words, and some experiences stayed with me. I mean, I remember I was at a function in Kenya, the west of Kenya, Kisumu, and they were calling me Mose Peter, like Sir Peter, like a gentleman or something. So Mose means like Sir, and the same way I was in Nigeria in Port Harcourt, and that's. The place where I really connected with the word Oga, Oga Pate Pate, like the real chief. And I mean, just been rhyming with all that, or Igwe, and the languages and all that. And also in Ghana as well. I mean, the language Twi, which is a local language that's more like Zulu here, more common. Traveling around the country, trying to learn the food, the languages, the cultures, and all that has been kind of reach. I mean, apart from the business side, sometimes we forget the nice things in our lives that we can focus on and enrich ourselves into that. And I mean, you know, in Egypt, I mean, thinking about, you know, learning the Arabic and the way they speak out there, you know, Habibi and Malish, and inshallah or shukran, or, you know, the simple ones, just get you going, has been something that I, you know, looking back, if I were to redo this, I'll do that more better. You know, then you talk about the food and the dance and all that. I mean, I remember I was in Addis and we went to Italian restaurant up the hill. You know, although Ethiopia was never a colonized country, as you know, but they had a lot of influx of Italian and Germans, that connection. And in that Italian restaurant, and the Ethiopian ladies were dancing with this dance where they just used the neck and the head and spinning it like this. I got dizzy. But I mean, it was just the shoulders and all that, you know, some of the things that stayed with me on the road.
Those are wonderful anecdotes. And what it evokes for me is, after university, I was sent for 2 years in Zambia in a non-for-profit, and someone asked, did you do accounting at university? And I said, yes. I said, oh, okay, off you go. And they threw me at the deep end, and I landed in Lusaka at 23 years old as the finance director for the Catholic Church in the country, because at the time they couldn't afford for a professional, so they had a volunteer, and someone thought if you link accounting, like, so thrown at
I'm sure the church didn't have a lot of money then.
So exactly, and it was an amazing opportunity for me. And then sometimes I got to visit the projects on the ground, and I would get to the townships, and then people would shout from the side, "Hey, Muzungu, Muzungu, Mlungu, Mlungu," with the white man.
Yeah.
And but they would also say "Father, Father," because the only white men they might have seen deep into the poorest townships might be the missionaries or something like that. And when I had to explain, no, but I'm not a priest, and then they looked at me like, that sounds funny, and then they said, oh, okay, brother. So if I wasn't a priest, then I was supposed to be a monk, and then trying to explain that I wasn't, like I said, oh, okay, brother will do, and so I stayed as the Mzungu brother. And,
Mzungu, it's a Kiswahili word for a white face.
Yeah, which is in Chibemba and Chinyanja, which are the languages on that part of the country there.
Yeah, close to the northern border
bordering the Kiswahili.
Yeah.
Yes, then it would be Mulungu, which is a
more
derivation.
Zulu word. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, with all in mind, I just want to give you a chance to ask me a few questions if you have any. Just some parting shots.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you for the opportunity, Peter. So, my key question is, what is your core talent in who you are, and how are you planning to put that at the service of yourself, your family, the world in the next couple of years?
I mean, good question. I think I'm already doing something that's related to my core talent. You know, when I was young and much younger than this, high school, I was very much into creative work, director, making a drama at high school, directing it, putting it together, writing the storyline, and played it at my school and other schools. And I loved a lot of all that work, and I wanted to do it more, but my parents are like, you know, you cannot play forever. But I mean, you know, through Off the Clock and the work that I do outside this in terms of, you know, coaching and imparting my knowledge in terms of, you know, the skills. I chair a board of an NGO called Global Girl Media in Braamfontein, which was founded with a sole purpose of, you know, trying to get underprivileged young girls into film, photography and journalism, which traditionally is known as a man's world. So kind of the talent or the gift that I have, I think it's to empower others and get them to, you know, shine and be the best they can be in life. And I think given through this platform of Off That Lock, we're doing a lot of that in spotlighting people like you, but more on work-life balance and longevity, because sometimes you get carried away and just work. But I mean, being very deliberate about spending time with your son, either on a rugby day or ice cream and just connecting, or your daughter or your wife. It's, a body is like a plant. It needs to be nourished and given water and sun and everything else to continue to be strong and grow. So, in the most philosophical way, this is really the answer to your question.
Okay, that's great. I love that, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you. The follow-on question that comes to mind is, are you then therefore 80-20 flowing to the core of that talent? And if not, how would you see yourself shifting towards 80% flowing in that talent for your own personal joy, fulfillment, and to give the best impact you possibly can to the world?
Yeah, I think more now than before. I think I'm more kind of 80% into it, because being where I am, I can do whatever I like with my talent to grow things. So this platform will probably grow into knowledge sharing, coaching, advisory, and all that. One reach a point in life that you collected enough information to be able to share it wisely and apply it to empower and and give to others in the best way. For instance, the book that I'm about to launch in the next 2 weeks is called Winning in Africa. Either as individuals or as businesses, your next 8 moves, things that you could do to win, but also that brings in a lot of culture and first-hand experience that I gained on the road, traveling over 40 countries on the continent. So I want to do more of that stuff, not, from reading books or watching TV or something, from, meeting the people on the ground, living with them and solving problems, either at a personal level or at a business level. A church, I mean, you kind of grew up in the church. I mean, churches are doing more in the continent in terms of, I know churches that own schools, that own hospitals, that own clinics and trying to help people. So in just strengthening what is there, taking it from here to the next level, that's, my kind of aspiration. I think my quality of sleep will get better if I do more and more of that stuff. And here I'm talking about shared value creation of, companies that are playing in the continent, collaborating and partnering with locals to solve societal problems while they're making money, because the two can coexist. That's me.
And is that what keeps you awake at night?
Some nights it keeps me awake. Some nights it helps me to sleep if I do more and more of that, or help in improving, that line of thinking or way of doing things. I think companies can have a balance of that long term and short term, not having them as a tension, but kind of in a balanced way, to be able to see and have the vision to, continue to make money or some money while they're solving many, many societal problems that are on the ground.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And you get joy and fulfillment flowing from there.
Yeah, you can see. I mean, I'm lighting up every time I talk about that. I mean, I remember I was still at BD that time, selling medical products, medical devices. We went to southwest of Cameroon to meet a chief who was working during the day as a import agent, export agent at the Ndwala. But obviously he's a chief in his village, and called us because was a friend to one of the leaders to help build a clinic or rebuild it and make it big. I mean, that fulfillment of having completed that task putting something that was not optimal or wasn't there first to kind of strengthen the system, healthcare system was just, one of the many stories. I mean, traveling to Kibera in Kenya, the biggest Kwatsa camp in Nairobi, as you know, trying to help and work with the clinics there to make sure that there's immunization of kids and the drugs and clinics are functioning well as well, was probably the most memorable things. If you think about immunization in Africa is a lot of kids, because of lack of immunization, they don't make the birthday of their 5th birthday. They perish, they die, their demise. But if immunization systems and programs are strong, actually recently made a post on LinkedIn showing all famous people at age 5 that they were not gonna make, including Bill Gates, they were not gonna make, the life that they made if they were not immunized and passed, the 5th birthday. That's kind of critical here in immunization world.
Amazing, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing these life stories.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your personal story and spending time here on Off the Clock. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. Cool.